celebrity here tonight. We've got Bureau staff, we've got consultants. So we want to hear what you have to say. So with that, without point of personal privilege, anybody see this magazine? Mr. Mayor, please join us up here, please. We had we celebrated at the City of Coral Gables Commission National Travel and Tourism Month, and it's Coral Gables Travel and Tourism Month. So we were very excited about that today. Well, here we are back here today, more than beach, art and culture. But this is the finest cover they've ever had. Now, point of personal privilege, I'd like you to please autograph it for me. A nice message for my lawyer.
Get out of Coral Gables jail free.
Anybody have a marker?
She says she does, but
She works for the city.
of course she does. She better.
Oh, look at this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Valdez Foley is the finest mayor the city of Coral Gables has ever had. So let's hear it from the mayor. Well, the mayor doesn't mention about the bureau. He's going to know what I'm going to say. I am a property owner here in Coral Gables, which makes me a taxpayer. Taxpayer, and I enjoy paying taxes. We have a unit of building 2, kind of right across from City Hall. So at some point, we'll be there and supportive of the mayor in his 3rd or 4th or 5th term, right?
Yeah. 6 years.
The mayor has another event. We did want to address a group about the importance of travel and tourism here in this city. Beautiful Coral Gables. It is beautiful former fire station.
This was a former fire station, yes.
And the Museum of Art and Culture. So let's hear it for the mayor.
Thank you, Bill. And we in Coral Gables very much realize what you do, what your organization does, because tourism has become a very important part of our life, of our economy here. We're very proud of what we have. Our Biltmore Hotel, our fine Biltmore Hotel, which was built as basically a trap by George Merrick. He built that hotel so that people who came to buy his lots would stay at the building. And then they would take him on an open bus around the city, across the city then, to buy lots. The hotel was so uncomfortable, no air conditioning, tiny rooms and whatever, that they really were motivated to go out and buy lots and to stay in their rooms. Today it is a jewel, really a jewel. It was restored in 1985. And we have from Mexican artisans painting the ceilings to mosaics. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And we're very proud to say that it is part of our tourism offerings. We also have a lot of other hotels, but we have a lot of other things too. Restaurants, Rachi, Suka, Pascal, Hillstone, many, many other restaurants that offer outdoor dining, fine dining, French, Italian, Turkish, Arab, whatever it is. And we try to attract people with a variety of offerings. We're also a city of culture if you want to go. We have 3 bookstores, 1 in Spanish. We have 5 live theaters. We have this museum, and we have a Mediterranean architecture, which attracts a lot of people. Our George Merrick, our founder, copied Spanish architecture, and he got the highest honor ever given by Alfonso XIII, the king at that time. Honors Medal of Merit, the Order of Carlos III, which is given to heads of state, to monarchs in Europe. George Merrick got it because of his architecture, and it is something to see, just like South Beach had, whatever it has, ours is better. thank you for everything you do. Tourism is a wonderful, huge industry, a clean industry. We know what it is because we're very much a multinational city. We have 150 multinational companies here. We have over 25 foreign consulates and offices, so we're well known in the world. Thank you for what you do. I am glad to have you host this meeting here. We have the president of our chamber, not the president, but whatever it is of our chamber of commerce. Whatever it is the most important person in our chamber of commerce. And we are very appreciative for what you do. And keep it up. Coral Gables is a wonderful place to be, and I hope you enjoyed your stay tonight. And that you have dinner in our fine restaurants or buy a book at our fine bookstores next door. And welcome.
Thank you. We haven't had another book signing yet, so thank you very much, Mayor. Another point of personal privilege. We had today, the County Commission had the Tourism and Ports Committee meeting, CAPS. We attend that meeting, a very important one. That committee is chaired by Rebecca Sosa, who's the vice chair of the County Commission, former chair of the County Commission. Well, she's chair of that committee. She's the queen of the ports, airport and seaport. Is what?
You're sitting in your district.
Well, her chief of staff is here too, so I'm don't steal his thunder, okay? Please. So he's got another event to go, but had a beautiful meeting this morning. You mentioned some of it, but really started the ball rolling. Demos with robust modernization, expansion, new hotels that Miami National Airport has ever seen. Was passed unanimously by the committee. But they talk a lot about how can we get this going right away. So, Alex Fernandez from Rebecca Sosa's office.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you all for being here today. As Bill mentioned, Commissioner Sosa is the chair of the Tourism and Ports Committee, and it's in the center of so much of what she does, prioritizing issues from the environment to our ports, the airport, and the port. And as Bill was mentioning, today was a historic day at Commissioner Sosa's committee where the airport director was presenting the capital improvement plan for Miami International Airport, in part because of the great work that the Bureau is doing. And you highlight there the 23 million passengers that came through Miami-Dade County in 2018. In the first quarter of 2019, we've already seen a 5% increase of passengers that have been flying into Miami-Dade County. And so the county, as your partner, continues to count with your support and the feedback of this great community in moving forward, especially with that capital improvement plan to continue adapting the airport to the needs of our tourists and our industry for the future. So good job, Bill, and on behalf of Commissioner Rebecca Sosa, welcome to Miami-Dade County's District 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex. You live on Miami Beach, Alex?
I live on Miami Beach.
So he's over here or he's over there?
But I spend my weekends here.
Well, weekends.
Also.
But he does a great job on the beach. And you know, Miami-Dade County, we are a partner with Miami-Dade County. We are the county's official destination sales and marketing organization for meetings and conventions. Remember, meetings and conventions, big events and travel and tourism. So I'm about to turn it over to some other folks. But I had just today, this afternoon, pinned Mark Trowbridge is here. The mayor mentioned him. And if Mark doesn't speak early on, we'll pay for it later. He's a Gator, former head of the Alumni Association. Any Gators in the house? Gator Mom? Gator Mom, yeah. Good for you, a proud Gator Mom. So it was the best 7 years of my life, I know that. Mark would be like, since you didn't join us yesterday. Okay. Mark Trowbridge.
I'll be very brief, but I have a pleasure. I love being in a room that smells like bacon. But the only one? No. Actually, you lost me. So, first of all, I want to say thank you to Bill. Obviously, I want to say thank you to the Bureau. This session was added to the schedule, and I was thrilled with that because, one, we want to make sure that Coral Gables and our folks have as much access to opportunities like this as all of us do. So thank you all for doing that and being here at our beautiful museum. And secondly, we have wonderful partners as well. Obviously, Bill and his team, and was just chatting with Gisela as well about something we're doing for this summer. But I want to recognize, of course, one of our board members who's here, Matthias Cameron. Thank you very much, Matthias, from the beautiful Biltmore Hotel. And Karen Fuertes is also a representative on our board of the city. And so, you know, two quick things. I think one, your input is critical to the work that the Bureau does. And I really applaud them for coming around every couple of years and asking for that input in a very judicious way. But the reality is that they're asking for our feedback all the time. And that's what makes them such a strong Bureau. We were in DC last week with a group of about 22 chamber members doing advocacy work. And because of relationships and because of Bill and others, the folks at Brand USA opened their doors to us and did a briefing for our chamber on what their plans are looking forward to 2020 and 2021. And Coral Gables and communities like ours can be a part of that overall process, just like we are here very locally. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, if you don't spend a lot of time in Coral Gables, well, please do. Come back. It doesn't always smell like bacon, but I can give you know, all of the grand tour. And what we love here is we have wonderful hospitality partners, not only in our hotels, but in our restaurants, and of course, all of our wonderful amenities. And it's you all that make that go forward. So for those of you that are members of our chamber and partners in this process, I just say thank you very much. Bill?
Thank you, Mark. Very nice, just like I wrote. I'm going to sit down and shut up. Rolando's going to take over, our chief operating officer. Let me just, my take on Coral Gables. It's a historic town, 1926. The Biltmore, thank you, Greg Biltmore Hotel, where you were with your colleague, Gene Prescott, yesterday at the City Commission. I'm a property owner here. I think the city of Coral Gables has done a wonderful job of protecting its brand. That's all we have is a brand. And they have, you can see it and you can feel it. They are developing, they have international companies, and they have hotels, and they have shopping. They're very close to the airport. Now, we'll get all of that stuff, but they've done a good job of protecting the brands. Built out speaking. So with that, Rolando, you want to get it going? Good?
Absolutely.
Let's hear it for Rolando.
All the way with you. So what is the main number for the Biltmore? The main telephone number for the Biltmore is?
1926.
1926. A little trivia. If you ever wanted to know when City of Coral Gables was established, just look at the last four digits of the Biltmore telephone.
445.
Yeah. 1926. 1926. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mark. And by the way, Mark was on an earlier cover of Coral Gables magazine. I walked over there, and I'm not sure which one was more handsome, you or your dog. That was on the dog.
It was a lot easier to photograph, too.
Okay. You know, Mark is so spot on. We do this process about every 5 or 6 years in our strategic planning process. So that is really something that we do on an ongoing basis. We have a lot of great committees, our board, of course, our executive committee, our marketing committee, our convention sales committee. So we, under Bill's leadership, like Mark and other great organizations, really exist based on the feedback that we get from our partners. So that is something that we're proud to do. And speaking of pride, we're proud that we've been working with this facility since it opened up several years ago. We helped establish a visitor center in the Coral Gables Museum, and if you walked in, you saw some materials there. The other thing that's happening now, and I think a lot of friends in the audience today, but we're the organization that developed Miami Spa, Miami Spice Month, and we're also the ones, right now it's Miami Museums Month. So this museum is also a strong partner and participant in Museums Month. And then the other thing that we've done over the years that features Coral Gables, and we'll talk a little bit more about those efforts, is on Sunday at the Holiday, just about a block away, we're doing our Wedding and Romance Showcase. And it's something that we've done for several years now. And what better place to celebrate all things romantic and weddings than Coral Gables. So if if you're in the market to get married or just be a little romantic, what time, Jenna, what time is the event on the Colony? On the showcase, what time? Matt? 1 o'clock, it's on your chair, just go to the Colony. So lots of activities in the Gables that we are showcasing, we're developing. One of the things, if you look at this, obviously the umbrellas on the wall was very, very special. So let's switch gears. I'm not going to go through this because most of you already know us, but for the ones that maybe don't, we are, as Bill alluded to, we are the official sales and marketing organization for all of Miami-Dade County. What we like to say is Greater Miami and the Beaches, but in essence, that's Miami-Dade County, which includes 34 cities, of which Coral Gables is one. We're doing 15 of these town halls. This is number 9. But we made a commitment to go throughout Miami-Dade County, and we're in the Gables, and tomorrow we'll be Miami Lakes, and we'll be in Homestead, and we were at FIU North, and we'll be all over the place. So, quick snapshot, we do a little bit of everything, as you would expect from a sales and marketing organization, whether it's advertising, research, we've got PR and communication. A lot of those team leaders are here in the audience, and around the room you'll see a couple of samples of things that we've done, some numbers. But I will say that we're especially proud of some of our other specialty efforts. You may not know that we are the official sports marketing arm of Miami-Dade County. So we're the ones that put together the Super Bowl bids and Major League Soccer and whatnot. We absorbed the Sports Commission several years ago. We have a dedicated division to LGBTQ marketing, which is near and dear to all of us, hopefully. We have an effort dedicated to cultural tourism. You know, the mayor talked about arts and culture. We had the country's first director of cultural tourism 20 plus years ago. Recently retired and recently replaced, George Sherry. Everyone knows George Sherry. He recently retired, but we established a new director of cultural tourism to continue his legacy. And more recently, we established a wholly dedicated multicultural tourism development department. And that for us is critically important. We've been talking about our multicultural in our neighborhoods for many, many years, but we wanted to double down on that effort, and we now have a dedicated department to that, in addition to everything else that we do. So quick snapshot of who we are. Most of you know us pretty well. We do that not only out of our home office here in downtown Miami near Brickell, but we do that around the world. We've got 53 representatives in all our key feeder markets, and that's helping us with everything from coordinating sales missions to getting market intelligence to obviously providing social media listening and feedback, as well as public relations firms under the leadership of Jennifer Diaz. We have, I believe, about 14 different PR firms around the globe that are helping us do our job. So that's where we're at around the world. I have a dual role at the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Bill mentioned I'm the Chief Operating Officer. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer. You guys figure out which one is funny. They actually both are very funny. The Chief Marketing Officer part of me works with an amazing team of marketing professionals. Again, some of them are who here today. Our marketing platform is predicated on our amazing neighborhoods, including Coral Gables. So our marketing platform called Found in Miami is about encouraging people to explore more of Miami. And when we say Miami to the world, we're talking about all the cities that make up Miami. I know we're so parochial, we're in Coral Gables, we're in Miami Beach, we're in Hialeah, but the reality is, and I think most of you know that when you're out there, whether it's in Bronx, Berlin, or Brazil, Miami is all. It's all one amazing destination. So what we're encouraging people to do is, regardless of where you're staying, is to explore more of Miami. And we do that through our Found in Miami campaign. We're uncovering the more and more the jewels of Miami, whether it's from South Beach to South Dade, from Little Havana to Little Haiti. We want to encourage people to explore more, including things as amazing as the Venetian pool, which is a magical experience. So that's our general marketing platform, and we've been doing a lot of work showcasing our neighborhoods, including Coral Gables, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details, because I do want to jump into the strategic planning process. So I think Alex alluded to some of the numbers. You've seen a lot of numbers around the room. I'm not going to quiz you, but these are big numbers. And they're big numbers because this is a big, big industry. And whether it's the jobs that we're supporting, which is 142,000 jobs, or whether it's the taxes that those 23 million visitors are generating, That's a lot of money, $412 million. And that's not just tourist taxes, those are sales taxes. Tourists generally account for about 35% of all the sales in our community. So 6% of that sales tax goes up to Tallahassee, and hopefully some of it comes back. But that additional 1%, half of that goes to our public health system through Jackson. The other half of that 1%, which also goes to our public transit system. So I know there's often a conversation about do tourists pay their fair due, and we would submit to you that they definitely do. So, and I know all of you play a critical role in doing that. So strategic plan, I alluded to the fact that we do this about every 5 or 6 years. We go through a very, very comprehensive process to select a consultant that will facilitate this process. In a moment, we'll be hearing from them. Last time, we used Ernst & Young. These are some of the firms that we looked at this year. We have a committee, as we always do when we're selecting such an important partner. And we went through a very exhaustive process. We advertised this nationally in all the trades and all the media publications. We got some great proposals from some great global firms. We went through a process, and ultimately 4 firms were invited to do some presentations. They were scored appropriately, not by staff, but by the committee. And we arrived at what we feel was the most amazing choice of a firm that has already roots in this community. They've been working with Miami International Airport on air route development, air service development. These are the folks that help us bring more direct service from around the globe. And we've had some amazing successes over the last couple of years. So with that, I want to introduce the company that we chose, Intravistas, and their project manager, Sonia Murray. So Sonia, come on.
Thank you very much. This is a very high energy group, so we're excited because we're going to be asking you some questions soon enough. But anyway, I'm Sonia Murray. As Rolando said, I'd like to introduce the team very quickly. Some of the team. Greg Talley, please stand up. This is our tour, our conferences and events. Michelle Simmons, please stand up. This is our outreach. And for 25 years. So thanks again for sharing your 2 hours at the end of your day with us. We really appreciate you coming. So just very quickly, I want to talk briefly about the strategic plan. There are 6 core elements that we're focused on here. I'm sure many of you have been involved in strategic planning, so you have a general idea of the process. But at the end of this strategic plan is going to help GMCVB to drive more visitors, to identify further opportunities for tourism, and also to help them with the relevancy and enhancement of their position within the community on supporting tourism. So you might ask yourself, well, why does Miami GMCVB need to go through a strategic planning process? We have tourists. We've had them since the day Florida opened. Well, you're right. We're blessed. We have very beautiful natural resources. We've got a great group of people that love living here and that encourage friends and family to visit all the time, and there's a lot to see and do. But the world has changed, and it's gotten very small. And there's a lot of places that are a non-stop flight away or a one-stop flight away. And they have become aggressive at marketing their destinations to meeting planners and to tourists, leisure visitors, and all trying to vie for that disposable income that we only have so much of, right? That limited disposable income. So what we're trying to do with this is to continue to get better and better, to have GMCVB continue to get better and better, and keeping that world-class Miami brand and destination front and center so that people will consider it all the time. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Michelle. She's going to talk about our outreach.
Good evening. Thank you so much. Stakeholder and community engagement is very, very important. It's really exciting for me because I get to help people like you enjoy an event like this. So when you have the mayor come in the room, and you also have the chamber guy come in the room, who, if the chamber doesn't work out, you have a serious career in voiceover. So when they're all in the room, you know you've done something pretty good. So the plan has been put together with a couple of components to include stakeholder interviews. We have done 85 plus talking to a variety of stakeholders within Miami-Dade County to get several pieces of information, input from hoteliers to airport directors to leaders of chambers. Meetings and workshops, we have facilitated 2 to the board and the GMCVB management, and at the end of the process, we'll have a visioning workshop. 15 town halls, this is number 9. Can you imagine? We have been all over the county, and we will continue to do that. You have, I believe, a list of those town hall meetings with your information. Feel free to join us again, and everything is better with bacon, so no, we'll have the next one. 4 focus groups that were outstanding, to include one for tech and millennials, which was just fascinating, the information, hospitality. We did one with business leaders and real estate developers, and we also did one with tourism. 7 community facilitations, and we have facilitated several surveys, one being called Destination Next, which was created by Intuitus. So let's get this party started. It is a party. 4 key questions. These are our themes for this evening. Unique experiences, new tourism opportunities, resident quality of life, and GMCVB new initiatives. This will all come together with 4 questions. The first, what are the existing tourism experiences that are not being sufficiently showcased here? When we're talking about the Coral Gables area, now I'll give you just a little something to think about. When we were here and we had a focus group with business leaders and the real estate developers, we were actually over at Ruth Chris, and there were a number of people here at that event from Coral Gables. One of the things that a person there said is, do you know that June is culinary month in Coral Gables? And I was uninformed. So she was saying that should be showcased and exposed to more people around the county. So if you can think of something such as that, what tourism experience is not being sufficiently showcased here in Coral Gables? I have a microphone, and I will be coming around. So, who raised their hands? Don't make me choose you, because I will. Who raised their hand? Officer, don't. We got our staff, our catering staff right now. I think the bacon has everybody headed. Anyone? Sir? Did you want to say something? Hold on, I want to get this mic to you. Hold on. Yes, sir.
The entrance to Fairchild Gardens is very fun. And yes, Fairchild Gardens is a real treasure, but if you look at the gate, it's all rusty, it's unattractive. I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to make that entranceway an inviting entrance, because the garden is fabulous.
So showing off the gardens by enhancing the facade.
This is an attractive entrance.
Thank you. Who's next?
And good signage.
And good signage. And we do have, all of us here are capturing all of the comments, so they will be a part. And I think we're also videotaping, so you're live, you can't get camera. Okay? Who's next? Anything that you can think of right here in Coral Gables that a person like me who lives in Avatar wouldn't know, because she doesn't come here.
So one of the things we also heard in the other group was that there are new efforts towards walking tours and bicycle tours here in Coral Gables, but sense that maybe we're not promoting those as much as we should be and could be with the move towards ecotourism and everything that's a natural tie-in. So it's here, but we're really just not talking about it to anyone outside Coral Gables.
I was coming to you because you seemed shocked that I hadn't been here, so I figured you had something you wanted to say. I'm talking about you.
Music and entertainment, I think, would be more focused. We're from hotel, very close by, and that many folks with live entertainment spots we can send, things that look bad, but not to say,
Gables Stages, the Gables Stages and other performing arts centers that we could probably better represent.
Actually, hi.
Yes, hello.
Actually, the art cinema, that is a new spot, and sometimes they participate on the movie festivals, but it's not that known. I mean, actually, when you talk to people, you ask them, "I wanted to have an art cinema in the city," people doesn't know. And probably something that could be promoted more.
Thank you. Anyone else for the first question?
This could also be expanded if we've got some folks not just from Coral Gables, but greater Miami-Dade. So
Yes,
if you're thinking
absolutely.
of something broader that falls into this category that applies to Miami-Dade, this is also a good time to share that. As the Biltmore, one could argue the premier kind of destination hotel here in Coral Gables, are you getting guests asking you for anything that, you know, you say, boy, that would be great if we had it, or I've got to send you far away to experience it? Is there anything that you kind of come across regularly that you think, maybe that's something we should talk about? The beach. Okay. Got it.
No, nothing that would be glaring.
Right.
That's part of the excitement and the beauty of Coral Gables. It's got so much to offer.
Right here.
Of course, everybody's juggling for a position and wants more promotion, but I think that's part of the excitement of the city. It's got a lot for everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. here representing. I have to say that as far as the cultural destinations, we really are not known for any level of culture events in general. Regularly, when guests book this destination, is mainly for the beach. So targeting here to the northeast, I would say. Hard to compete with New York as far as what culture events have we offer, but we know in fact that the domestic market, many times one chooses this destination because they believe it's on the beach and there's no other experiences that we can offer. So that, from our perspective, would be perhaps the main opportunity to target people that can come not only for the beach, but even not for any other experience. And I don't know if there is, in fact, any website that you go and search for theaters or anything that you can actually get besides the GMCVB, because if you don't know where people are going.
So adding a little bit on to that, I think that as a longtime resident, I think we who live here understand ourselves to be a very multicultural community and to have a lot of influences from a whole lot of different areas in Latin America, the Caribbean, etc. But I don't think that's showcased enough to international audiences that you could have a experience, you know, in Little Haiti, that you could have, you know, a very authentic dining experiences from, you know, from all around Latin America and the Caribbean here in Miami, and some of the also the smaller community events within those local communities. You know, there's Caribbean festivals, there's things like that, that, you know, those of us who work in tourism kind of know about it, but I'm not sure that it's showcased enough as one of the features of Miami in general. But, you know, all that
I think we've heard that quite often, and it's been repeated and suggested a couple of times to have some type of brochure or something that gives information about specific neighborhoods, Little Haiti, Alapata, wherever you can go and get Colombian food versus just going in this direction, going south to get Mexican food, or just knowing all these things in one comprehensive document.
Hi, I'm Susie Westphal of City Theater, and we actually used to produce summer shorts here in these neighborhoods. Now we're downtown, and we are members of the Chamber for Cultural Affairs with John Copeland and Allie and everybody. I actually think you guys do a pretty good job. What I would say, and sort of to pick up on what these ladies were saying, is we are such an event-oriented community, and there's so a sense of cohesion, I think, is something that's missing, that there is just a mosaic of opportunity every day of the week. There is something going on, and the bigger things sort of take precedence over the smaller things. So our Basel takes over, and the Coconut Art Festival takes over, the Book Fair takes over, all of which are wonderful. But they all are there because so many of us contribute to that. The one thing wouldn't be without the other. And I don't know in terms of how your marketing could go, but I recommend to people coming to town all the time, go to the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau site, and you will find all these things listed or discounts available. But I do feel like, you're only concentrating on the time you're going to be there. But for those of us who live here, I mean, this would give us a reason to say, what am I doing this weekend? And then just know, maybe there's, some sort of a video that's constantly playing that we could, jump in on and take friends and family and say, let's go have an adventure.
That's perfect. Thank you.
I think this Coral Gables Museum is insufficiently showcased. I heard a number of you say, it's the first time I've been here, this is a fantastic building, it's a fantastic site, I didn't even know it existed. It might be one of the best kept secrets, but I think this museum deserves to be showcased a lot more also.
Well, it fits in with some comments we've heard about there is so much history here in Miami-Dade County, and that doesn't necessarily come through as much as everything else. And so when you start thinking about what's actually here and perhaps underrepresented, under-discussed, the whole historical aspect of what's here in Miami-Dade County.
It's particularly so to some of the cultural tourism you were talking about. I think it fits into your overall goals.
Right.
About cultural tourism, and it's a wonderful facility to promote cultural tourism.
Right.
Okay, we're going to move to question 2, and this is going to be picked up by Sonia. But let's go ahead and take a look at it. What are the tourism services or products that do not yet exist but should be developed?
Thank you, Michelle. So I'm sure all of you travel a lot. I guess I'm pretty positive I'm talking to a group that travels and goes places. So, I'm sure you've been somewhere where you say, we could do that in Miami. And maybe it's not here, or maybe it's not here in a big way, but sort of along those lines, what are the tourism services or products that do not yet exist that we believe could be or should be developed? So.
I think our public transportation system really needs some attention. I moved to Miami 22 years ago, and there was always construction of the roads, and we're expanding more lanes here, and basically enabling more traffic to come on the road. I was somewhat shocked about a month ago, there was a CVB meeting that took place in Miami, where they announced another multi-billion-dollar project at the intersection of 195, 836, 395. It's going to get us stuck in traffic for another 3 years. Instead of taking the metro rail that's already based and constructed, extend it to Homestead, take it all the way to Doral, add a few street lines on the and bring us to the 21st century. We're so far behind. Tourists are coming to town don't necessarily want to take expensive cabs or rent cars. Transportation really, really needed.
Thank you for that. There's no question transportation comes up over and over in every single one of our interfaces throughout this whole project with key stakeholders, with the public, and there's no question that it would help both locals and visitors, right? So even though GMCVB can't sort of be the lead person because they're not transportation, they can absolutely facilitate the discussions or help support that.
But I just said, I remember 18, 19 years ago, when the taxi situation was so bad, the old cabs and the badly dressed drivers, and the CBB took a very active role in legislating the age of the cabs, the number of cabs that individual owners could have. So we will support the Bureau. The Bureau will take a stand on it and support legislation and budgeting. We will definitely go beyond it.
You're absolutely right. They're definitely a key influencer, right? So this is for sure, transportation is one of those issues they can help with.
So adding on to the transportation conversation, there's also a lack of a cohesive place for people who are not familiar with the area to find the information of how to get from point A to point B. And often they'll go to like a tourist attraction and say, okay, I'm done at the museum and now I want to go to the beach or downtown or whatever. And they literally have to pull out like 4 or 5 different maps from different entities to get from point A to point B, where there should be, this is something that I think the CVB can get involved in, is creating, maybe it's an interactive online mobile map thing that can tell people how to get from point A to point B on public transportation, because that would go a long way, because right now sometimes you have to hop on 2 or 3 different buses or whatever just to get to something that's really, really popular.
Yeah, this is another comment that we have heard about.
So wondering if, let's say, the Metro line, there could be an airport express rather than stop at every stop. I mean, I would take it that Kendall, the southernmost point, but it must be 20 stops before I get to the airport. If I thought there was an airport express, I would probably jump on it. The same thing can be true for the sports games. Go to Miami Heat game. They have the Heat Express and zip you down and zip you back rather than have to stop at every local stop.
Anyone else?
When I go to certain cities, if I'm going to New York or I'm going to Philadelphia or DC, I know there's on the weekend, there's going to be some community that is the place that residents and tourists feel comfortable going. And I don't know what it's going to be. I'll go find it if it's Boston, if it's Little Italy. But we don't have that, and we are so sprawling that the events that are happening, you really kind of have to know about it. And I guess it goes back to my original point that the large things eat the small things, but the small things feed the big things. And it would be really nice, I think, whoever was talking about just having an app that would explain all of that in a very clean way would be great, and in multiple languages.
So perhaps sort of an insider's view of what's happening and what's happening specifically this weekend or this week. I like it. Thank you.
Accessible tourism. So Miami is the flattest travel destination in the entire United States. Very conducive to people with wheelchairs and even mobility there. And about 3.5 years ago, I assisted Miami Shakelet, to study and try to promote the accessible tourism. We took the bus, the metro, we were all in wheelchairs from Coconut Grove to the airport and back. It was a pretty impressive trip that we did because it was very easy to do, but nobody really knows about it. And the beach, access to the beach, it exists, but it's not promoted properly. So, and it's a huge market that I think we could gain a lot bigger share of that.
So sort of the promotion and highlighting of the fact that this is an easy place to get around with people that have mobility issues.
Yes.
Like, personal ones. I like that.
mind, I think sustainability is becoming a topic that is important to be aware of. We actually show a report where about 70% of the natives are looking for locations to stay in towns, to stay that are sustainable and that are showing what practices that we're doing. So I think these cities is going to be very promoting all the sustainability efforts that we're doing and perhaps protecting more of the green areas that we have. Our office is in Greenville and we've seen all these buildings and I don't know where the green spaces are. It's important and also promoting what we're doing as a destination.
I agree with you. And by the way, I think although millennials do count, I think we all care about, what people are doing for the environment. Sustainability is one of those topics that really involves sort of an economic sustainability, environmental, workforce development, quality of life. But for example, I think what you're talking about, and this was very appealing to me, was that Miami Beach just went completely plastic-free as a city ordinance in the fall. And I think a lot of people are thinking more about that and saying, I think this is going to be where I want to put some of my money if I'm going on vacation. I agree that that does make a difference in your decision. And I think it's a nice segue to the next question that Greg Talbot will take.
Great, so question number 3. How do we better balance growth of tourism with and while maintaining and promoting the quality of life of the residents? This is becoming one of the biggest issues around the globe, frankly. If you've read about several international cities and some US cities where residents are feeling they're getting out of balance. Frankly, you read the headlines here coming out of some of the mega events, and we're getting that same sense. Yet, those very same mega events have in fact put Miami on the global map and continue to keep Miami on the global map. So how can we manage this balance to continue to grow Miami's position globally while ensuring it is a place that you want to continue to live and you want to raise your children and you want to have them live and thrive in? How do we manage that? Yes, ma'am.
I would say that developing the emerging districts or neighborhoods and also promoting them. For example, here in Miami, we have the Little Haiti, we have the Little Havana, everything that is up to the design district, the northeast Miami, just developing those areas with tourism activities, hotels, restaurants, and also promoting them. Because the people usually come to Miami Beach, they don't know anything else, and even for Gables.
Well, you bring up actually one of the strategies that's being used in those global destinations. It's called dispersal, tourist dispersal. And the idea of get them out of, for instance, Amsterdam's probably one of the big cities where this is being talked about. Let's get the tourists out of downtown Amsterdam, and therefore that means we have to give them a reason to go somewhere else and highlight what's there so that they won't spend all 4 days downtown in creating that crush. They'll actually get out. And that is what Miami's trying to do, and GMCVB with the Found in Miami campaign and talking up the neighborhoods. It may be a question of, is it time to double down on some of that, particularly in digital marketing and what we can do to really target and segment the audiences, but you've actually put your finger on one of the key strategies for how to do this.
I think a lot of it has to do with the residents understanding the impact of tourism in the city. We are a tourism city, and we are who we are today because of the tourism. I'm not sure if there's a second industry in Miami that's even close in the next generation as tourism is. And I recall the Palm Hotel opened in South Beach, and the residents next door were waiting at 7 o'clock to see if the backup delivery truck is making noise. They bought the condo on the beach because of the tourism, So I think it has a lot to do with how we educate our fellow citizens about the impact and what would it be without the tax income. How much of it would fall in their pocket rather than the tourist market.
So I think that's a great point. And while part of our role is marketing, communications, and PR, a question is, are we engaged enough in the education? Yes, we do advocacy, mostly with elected leaders in Florida and obviously throughout the county. But is there a more effective role we can take in education? So maybe we need to translate these numbers differently. It's one thing to have a big number, but perhaps we don't say what that means. Without tourism, your taxes would need to go up 35% to cover what you're currently getting, right? So maybe there's a different way we need to tell the story to make the local residents realize there might be a couple days of inconvenience, but let's be really clear what we're getting in return for that. So this idea of educating. There has also been some thought that we as a city may not do the best job of communicating when there are these mega events. What are the impacts going to be? What are the alternative routes that we put into place? What is the timing? So that everybody gets a sense of, okay, I understand how this is going to work. I know what I need to do for the next 3 days. And there's a communication plan for it. And that might also be one other strategy about how we do this. Do you have a question, comment? No, look like you did. Okay, go ahead.
But we also would be useful to have a better event venue to host large events. So far we lost Ultra, we lost tennis, we can't get Formula One. So these are mega events which bring millions of dollars. We have to identify a venue which is in downtown, not Homestead. No one's going to Homestead.
Well, they are.
Nothing wrong with Homestead. I'm saying it's a racetrack.
Yeah.
But, I mean, people who go to Ultra might go to Hard Rock because they can still get to Miami. I mean, they might go to Homestead, I'm not sure, but it's not going to be the same draw for people who come to want to be on the beach and have a downtown experience. So something we've got to identify a venue that's large enough away from residents so that we can continue to host and bring in new venues. Because in our business, it's much easier to keep events than to find new ones all the time.
Right.
So let me just say that we didn't lose tennis.
Yeah, I was just going to say, everything stayed in Miami-Dade County. It's the good news. But your point is talking about out of downtown. And I think that's really where this issue comes.
Tennis wasn't downtown. It was on Key Biscayne.
Right. No, I understand that. Right. No, I understand.
By the way, a lot of those hotels, maybe less, are not involved in tennis, but still here in Miami.
Right. So it's here. I think the question still comes down to, clearly there's a residential issue downtown with the residents saying, we don't want these things. And that's where I think a combination of the education about the opportunity, and to your point, we may need to look at more specific venues where these events can take place and perhaps not cause as much disruption.
Let me also talk about downtown. I said I wouldn't speak, but the Super Bowl is going to be downtown. Our 11th Super Bowl. It was 10 years ago we had our last Super Bowl. And they have a new concept called Super Bowl Live. And it started in Indianapolis. And Bayfront Park for a week, downtown Bayfront Park, will be activities for families, free concerts, Intercontinental Hotel is a headquarter hotel. There's a team hotel across the street. So the biggest event of the year in the country is in downtown Miami.
Yes, sir.
About quality of life for the residents. I'd like to see a review of the timing of the traffic signals in certain areas, because if you wanted to go to Madison Hammock, you wanted to go to Fairchild Gardens, and you're going down, let's say, Kendall Road, and you want to turn right on Old Cutler, that light is on green for 3 seconds. There's 100 cars lined up all the way back to Red Road trying to get there. It frustrates the drivers tremendously. Same with 80th Street. Yeah, I know you have to keep traffic moving on US 1, but some of these traffic lights at Red Road, Old Cutler Road, Kendall trying to cross US 1, those lights are on for 3 seconds. 3 cars go through. And then you know what happens in Miami. Somebody goes through on the yellow, 2 more go through on the red, and it's a real problem. So we're thinking about, we want to see the tourism grow, but the traffic patterns sometimes, I think, are a little inconsistent with what's happening in tourism. We're seeing more people want to go to Madison Hammock or go to Fairchild Gardens. You can make that right turn from Kendall onto Old Cutler Road, because the light's green for 3 seconds.
You got to be able to get them in there. Anything else under this topic spring to mind? Yes, ma'am.
So I think in addition to education, and I think you're right, I mean, I look at some of these numbers and they are impressive, but they don't say how it impacts me. So I think you're right, saying something more like, well, your taxes are gonna be X% higher or whatever would be very impactful. But also I think involving the locals in the tourism economy. I think the CVB does a great job with Miami Spice and spa and things like that. What about something that's a little bit more cultural? I mean, I think the museum thing as well, but maybe some of like the really smaller experiences where maybe like there's some sort of a program that you do like a passport type thing, you know, and then you have the opportunity to play dominoes in Little Havana with somebody, or you know, have a Haitian meal and you know, dance routine at Tap Tap or whatever the case may be. And then maybe as a resident, you're filling out this little virtual passport, and then if you fill in X amount, maybe you get something, I don't know, just a way to involve. And I think this will also help, because you know, we all know we have a slow season, and that would be when the residents can become tourists of their own place where they live, right, and see more of it. And you know, I'm not talking necessarily discounts, you know, but some sort of a program that not only educates them about what's there, but encourages them to participate.
That's a great idea. Obviously, our own residents are our best marketers to friends, family, and everybody else around. And if they're more aware about the depth and breadth of what's available here in Miami-Dade County, the more likely they are to find a connection with someone they want to talk about this experience with, and that brings more. So you're right, some way that we can facilitate the residents' understanding and knowledge of what all is here. And I love the idea of a passport for them.
Well, as a resident of Key Biscayne, I can tell you what it is like to be under siege. And, you know, I have to say, after Ultra, after the boat show, I sort of miss the tennis. Because we didn't, you know, I mean, we had the tennis for many years, and the thing that worked about that really worked, was how much of the community supported it. How much of the community volunteered to be at tennis was amazing. And because you could get to it on your bicycle or your golf cart kind of backwards, it became an event that actually came to work. Although, you know, we're a natural island, and it still had the friction of putting an artificial thing in the middle of a park. But it was okay. The boat show thing was just another experience that kind of got crammed right back on the causeway, and we're hoping one day it will leave. But Ultra was really a last straw. So we're not sorry to see it go, but it was the conflict of putting something like Ultra in the middle of what is a nature preserve. I mean, I saw birds falling down because they couldn't hear. So the fact that that's gone is okay. But as the ambassadors of travel and tourism, you guys need to do a really good job with our local governments to be the peacemakers and to say, you know, maybe that was a great idea. Maybe it would take time. Maybe you don't cram it down somebody's throat, you know, but that isn't how it happens. And I'm a native Miamian, I'm actually second generation. And the lesson we have got to learn is how to make our civic governments actually address what that says, the growth of tourism versus the quality of life of residents, and how do we make it work for us, you know?
Great. A couple of points that jump out at me at that. Number one, how you talked about the tennis opportunity was kind of baked into your community, right? That folks wanted it, were happy to help make it happen, and that made it a better experience for everyone as opposed to something that there was a feeling was kind of shoved down the throat. and what didn't have the support of the community, and then on top of it, all the disruption. So this idea of who's making the decisions, and if these events are important to the future of Miami as a tourist destination, then you're exactly right. The people that are making the decision about where these go need to perhaps be a little more thoughtful about how we ensure this is successful for Miami, for the residents, and for the attendees. And clearly, the Ultra event there missed on a number of those levels. So there's something that may need to happen there in terms of how that decision gets made.
You know, the one thing I will add to that is that if it was Ultra's decision to leave, I give them all the credit in the world for saying, you know what, this didn't work, and let's see where we go. Because yeah, we may like to be here, but this wasn't the match. And the thing was, you know, I work downtown, so I know about Ultra there, and it's growth. So maybe it is, what is the growth of the event, and how do we manage that?
Right. Well, and we know they are talking to several other destinations here in Miami-Dade County where hopefully we would find a better fit for everybody to make this be successful. So the other thing I've heard time and again over the course of, what did we say, this is our 10th or 11th, is, you know, what can the appropriate bodies do to help solve some of these issues? And in a number of cases, you're all voters. You all have elected officials. And I think there is some role here for us as citizens to kind of band together and say, whatever it is you want to say. We can do certain things in our role as the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, and yes, that allows us and gives us entree potentially at a different level. But if you marry that with some pressure coming from underneath about what you all want, that helps, I think, sell the case to the people we may need to influence the most. So I would just urge, as I hear frustration around some of these issues, that probably needs to get directed in a couple different directions in a more organized way to help us all have the impact we want to have. If this is what we want to get to, yes, we know how important tourism is for Greater Miami. Yes, we need to see that continue to grow to help offset the expenses of living here, but it has to be done in a way that we want to continue to live here. Then we've got to figure this out, and that means we've got to put pressure on up and down the system. Other thoughts about this? So, you know, the big events are really important, and as we look at what other destinations are doing around the globe, they are using these mega events or big events or specialized events to help position their destinations. Truly, Art Basel is probably one of the best examples of this. What is it, 20 years, 19 years that that's been going on? One could argue that single-handedly has done more to put Miami on the global map than anything else. Because of the attention that brought at a very high level in terms of media and in terms of who was coming to that. So that's a classic example that's used globally about how you use events to raise the profile of your city. Now, you have to temper that with the other side. But when I look and hear about what they're doing about coming into the communities now with Art Basel and extending into the communities, you start saying, now that's the smart way to do this, right? Just like in the case of the tennis, they're involving the local community and taking the art to them, and then involving the local artists and students, and then you say, that's smart work. All right, well then, seeing no other comments, let me go on to the last question. This one. There we go. So, thinking about, again, the mandate of the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, and in light of everything we've talked about in terms of kind of opportunities to highlight existing things better, opportunities to fill gaps that may not exist, and opportunities to perhaps engage differently on the issues of sustainable tourism while we want to see growth. Are there specific initiatives that you think GMCVB could undertake to deal with any of that? So one of the things I heard was this issue of kind of engaging the local residents with what's happening. The other that kind of goes hand in hand with that is, okay, if we've got 34 municipalities, could we create kind of a site where they give the content to, here are the top 20 things that you can do in Coral Gables in the month of June, and that just goes right into a website that gets searchable by, I want culinary things, talk to me about arts and culture, tell me about sports, and all of a sudden they have to, Coral Gables would have to decide which of the 20, align them to these verticals, so that if I'm a resident or a visitor and I say, I want to know what's happening next weekend in the culinary in Greater Miami, boom, it searches across all 34 civic areas and gives me a list. That could apply to residents, right? Wow, this weekend I want to do something food related, push, and all of a sudden you get to see what's going on. And so,
Yeah, to that point, there's probably 76 different event calendars
Yeah.
by all different entities, and they're all disjointed. So it really doesn't take a lot of budget or genius to create an aggregator that will pull from all these different sources and then feed the data in an easier to find way for people to,
right. As we look at it from what our role is to push out, and yes, we can organize, yes, we could aggregate. What we need is the content. So what we need from the local communities is give us the content we want, exactly. Now help us pick that. Great, so that's an example. We think as well this issue around transportation to the degree that, again, GMCVB is in a position to facilitate a bit of a dialogue. We can probably do something about that, particularly from the position of its impact on our visitors, right? So that's our way into the conversation, but obviously we can't talk about conversation that isn't, transportation that isn't impacting both. But that is one way that we could kind of either convene, facilitate, kind of push that issue resolution along a little bit.
Well, it will be also really contribute greatly to the balance as well, because how many 142,000 employees in India? And right now they need to struggle with traffic. We have employees that come all the way from Homestead, an hour and 40 minutes in the morning. So put them on the train.
That's been a great example, because everyone we've been in, we have our own, those 142 live throughout Miami-Dade County, and the same issue is, how are we helping people just that are in this business get to work? And when you look at where they are, North County, South County, there's no connectivity to bring them in. So definitely an issue from that standpoint.
Is there anyone in the room who can tell me the status of the Plan Z, that bike path that was go from Brooklyn all the way to Key Biscayne? Anybody familiar with this? Okay, well, look into Plan Z, I think. It's a magnificent vision of a bike path that would go from Brooklyn all the way. It would be the signature facility in Dade County if you did.
Plan Z. Sounds highly secret. So what other services or initiatives do you think GMCVB could do to help with any of this that we've talked about? Anything else pop to mind? I guess the other thing I heard is could somehow GMCVB engage with the right folks when we're talking about these mega events to ensure that they're kind of seated appropriately. You're right, and then manage the growth. Right? Seated appropriately to manage the growth, perhaps is the way to put that. And that may be leaning in on some decisions that I suspect they haven't been part of. I think this is a city local decision about where some of these things go, but yet we know there are visitors coming in. So it's a visitor experience, and once again, I think we can lean in on, because it's all these visitors coming to Miami-Dade County that ultimately are using our hospitality resources. So I think we can say, hey, we think we can help here. Yes, ma'am.
This is sort of that, but a little separate as well. And it's around safety, because I'm bringing a bunch of people in because we're doing summer shorts. So we're bringing a lot of playwrights in, and then there will be 800 to 1,000 theater industry people coming in June for the Theater Communications Group Conference downtown. And they're coming from all over the country, and it's a big deal. But I'm on the host committee of that, and a lot of women are traveling by themselves, and they want to know if that is a safe thing to do, because they've heard very mixed things. And I suppose somewhere in the marketing, women like to travel, and women like to spend money when they travel. But they want to be safe. They don't want to feel like they can't get from point A to point B, that they may be hit up somewhere along the line. There is anxiety, and it shouldn't be like that, because we're a wonderfully beautiful community. But I would say that my own current experience right now is that there are some nervous people coming into the city. And I'm trying to get them from the Intercontinental to the Arch. And now that has turned into this perfectly splendid, actually walkable thing to do, even in June. Whereas in 2011, when we started our first conference, I was busing people from the Epic Hotel to the Olympia, because there was such a sense of tension and nervousness. So I would say that's also part of the messaging that needs to happen, encouraging them to come and making them feel safe.
Well, you're right. Safety and security is becoming probably the #1 issue globally now, both in tourism and in group events, and yours is a group event. So the issue of kind of perception versus reality is one issue that we've talked about how Miami is perceived versus what is really true. So that's one issue from perhaps a marketing standpoint. You're actually suggesting something very different, and that is how do we ensure that this population will feel safe while they're here. And that is probably something the host committee should take up. The Bureau of Services Department could be involved with that, or if they're not already engaged, they should be. This is a normal ask for events coming into any destination, so I think you'd be well within your rights to say, let's have a conversation about what that would look like so that people see it to the right degree that they feel safe and doesn't make them even more anxious. So, great point.
And speaking of growth, I know we've got some really astute names. A lot of this conversation focuses on people on vacation and holiday, but this is a perfect reference to, we're in the business of bringing more meetings and conventions. We have a newly renovated convention center on Miami Beach that impacts various hotels in different ways throughout the community. But you guys are putting a lot of meetings in your hotels, in your ballroom space. So when you look at the initiatives, and there's a lot of things that are going on, that's part of our mission as well. So as we evolve, yes, we want more folks on holiday and vacation, but we want to do whatever we need to do to evolve to bring more meetings in groups, which I think from your perspective especially is a great base of business for you as well. So just wanted to kind of plant that seed. If there's any brilliant idea, maybe today or in the future, that, and there's probably many, but that's a big, important part of what we do. So.
Yes, sir.
I think you were touching on a whole trend of solo travel, whether that's the individual female business person going to a meeting. I'm watching the cruise industry gear up and allow, single occupancy in cabins because there's a lot of solo travel, taking place. Hotels are gearing up for this as well. So maybe promoting, Dade County is a wonderful place for solo travelers would work as well.
Thank you.
There's one kind of last thought about it, not about the groups and conventions, but the massive growth in the cruise industry. We feel like every Friday and Saturday night it's a citywide convention. There's that much pressure in the city. And I know that there is a big effort in extending the pre and post stays, but that would help. Because in the past 20 years, the massive demand has shifted from midweek, where you're not in the beach, the weekend was empty. Now the weekends are very busy, and it creates like windows in the middle of the week. So what can we do to extend the stays of the either pre or post cruise travelers?
So I'm hearing two things with that. One is, to your point, extend the stay. The other is where you've now got holes is midweek. So from a group perspective, from a convention perspective, the more we could bring in during that period to create additional compression in the city midweek would be a great thing. You know, for many other cities, that's business travel. Fills that gap. That may not yet be enough here. So hence, if we could focus kind of the meetings and conventions to fill that building midweek, creates compression and gives you some balance over the course.
Or is the cruise lines, you know, start 7-day cruises on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, not necessarily Saturday and Sunday.
Right. We are engaged with them from Greater Miami Convention and Business Bureau to talk about all those aspects in terms of how we can get some extended stay, how we work collaboratively to make that happen. So we are engaged in that, and that is moving further and further up the priority list given their size and impact on the market, to your point.
Yeah, Bill spoke earlier about the committee meeting today at the county commission where they, the airport, unveiled their CIP program, their capital improvements program, and it's massive, and it's I think about $6 billion. The airport, the one central terminal is the one that has not been touched since I think it was built in 1954, originally known as Wilcox Field. But the seaport, I mean, if you drive by there, and I think often we do, you've seen the finalizing the construction of Norwegian Cruise Line's Pearl Terminal. There are 3 other dedicated terminals that will be coming on. MSC will be building one. Virgin, Sir Richard's bringing his cruise line to the community, and it hasn't been officially confirmed, but probably Disney and the world's largest carrier as well, the one that starts with the C, will probably be unveiling similar mega terminal projects. So, I mean, if there's any doubt in anybody's mind on us being the cruise capital of the world, I think now it's truly affirmed. So this is a huge priority for us on how to leverage this expanding seaport, which theoretically, when we had that midweek ship that came, remember that, the Pearl? The NCO, on a Wednesday, that was literally like a convention coming to town on a Wednesday. So that's something we're going to be spending a lot of time on. So thanks for that.
And as you increase the number of terminals and ships coming in, that may also naturally start to spread this out, because there's got to be an overall concern about how do we get those numbers in if we just keep piling it into Friday and Saturday. I won't dictate that, I don't control that, but it would strike me, you start thinking about how do we spread it. But give some thought to the meetings and conventions with regard to this question after tonight. So if you think there are some other initiatives that GMCVB could do, one of the things we're thinking about, for instance, is what are the industries that we want to put a stake in the ground as Miami, and saying these are going to be the industries that we're going to own for the next 5, 10, 20 years. And then how do we start focusing our sales and marketing to those vertical industries for meetings and conventions, business events that would actually help us grow those industries even more, and do that in partnership with existing business here in Miami as well as the academic community to say what are going to be those industries of the future that we want to claim. And that allows us to then start focusing on the type of client we want, the type of business that we want, and to some degree, the type of pattern that we want. Right? So, any other thoughts? In general, life. Yes, ma'am. No, just why we're here.
You know, we are such an interestingly diverse community. And I would think that's appealing to all kinds of travelers, if they're cultural travelers, or they're foodie travelers, or they're just the occasional traveler. And the cultures in our community contribute quite a bit in terms of the arts. And there are small organizations, medium and large size. And I would like to say, I would like to see more emphasis put on the cultural community here, because it is unlike any place else. And you kind of got a little taste of everything. And for somebody that might be traveling from a country and they don't know that we have this fabulous dance or symphony or theater, or just folkloric stuff going on, that makes you feel comfortable. And I would encourage more of that. And I know John Copeland's doing a really fabulous job picking up from George to make that point, but it is important.
Great. We agree. We think it's clearly one of Miami's greatest strengths, and it's a question about how do we leverage that more in terms of in our marketing. How do we really showcase that to do exactly that, attract more people that A, see themselves, or B, see an area that is so diverse and unique to any other destination. So we agree.
Yeah, let me just add to that. And it's also pretty nascent, right? Like Miami getting known for its culture has become something that in the last 10 years has really jumped onto the scene. And so I think there was not an awareness the way that there should be. So for sure we want to see that leverage.
Any other thoughts about anything we've talked about or not tonight that touches on tourism or group events? All right, Orlando, I'll turn it back to you.
We will, but thank you, InterVista. Let's give a little round of applause. And, we're privileged to start with the mayor of Coral Gables, and I think we're wanted to organize closing with the manager of Coral Gables. So he's in the back. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your support. There's one other thing that came up thematically in several of these town hall workshops, and it was the role that the Bureau can play in educating small businesses to partake more of this #1 industry. We talked earlier about how we're out there trying to spread more tourism to more parts of the community. Well, some parts of the community, don't have a lot of experience in welcoming tourists. So, what role can we play in everything from customer service? And by the way, we do have a customer service program, but we can do more of that. Even like social media skills and digital marketing, which we and most of us take for granted. But if you're a small business that is in this burgeoning new little Havana neighborhood, you may not be adept at that. So I will say, so that's something that we're going to take care of. We didn't hear it tonight, but I see some nodding heads, so I think it's a given. And we historically have been in the marketing space, and more we're going, destination marketing. But the evolution of organizations like ours is destination marketing and management. And management entails getting involved in some of those issues, whether it's transportation, whether it's training, workforce housing. These are things that historically perhaps the CVB didn't play too much of an active role, but I foresee, especially over the next 5 years, we will be at that table. Maybe we're at the head of the table, on the side of the table, but we definitely need to be in the room. So more to follow on that. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, going back to what I alluded to earlier, was this Found in Miami marketing platform that we've created. It's been several years in the making. People look at us and they think, we talk about the sun and fun, and we're all about that scene. Ironically, we spend very little time, because it doesn't need to be talked about as often, about our sun and our fun. People know that about us. So what we spend our time doing is talking about our culture, and culture in its broadest sense. Our people, our places, and the stories. And it's not because it's the right thing to do, and politically we like to, we're like Benetton, we love all. It's because the research tells us that that's what the traveler wants. Whether you call it a cultural traveler, they want these authentic, organic experiences. And although we're a relatively young city, I think we're blessed, to your point, that we do offer that in many, many places. And I think I'm going to make a personal commitment, and I've already been sending some emails to some of my colleagues, that the other thing that I foresee us evolving significantly in the near future is engaging our community more than ever. Because we're a fairly small organization, but we're about 2.7 million strong in Miami-Dade County. And if there's a way that we can unlock the power of our people, our residents, to help us amplify and tell the stories, their own personal stories, and more about more places and their peoples, then you're all working for us. And selfishly, that would be an amazing thing to do. So thank you for your ideas. And again, thank you to the team. Thank you to our hosts. There is a place that you can visit and an email that you can send more ideas to. So if you visit destinationmining.org, it's kind of our clearinghouse, our portal for this project. You'll see notes, you'll see the recap, you'll see videos. We're videotaping all these sessions, so we're uploading them as we go. And also, feel free to email us at strategicplan@gmcvb.com. There's been some great discussions, some great feedback, but you may be driving home and, oh wow, I wish I would have mentioned that. Or maybe you weren't comfortable in sharing. We want feedback, and it could be positive or otherwise, criticism. We accept that as well. So thank you again for joining us this evening, and please enjoy some sliders and bacon. There's still some bacon. Thank you.